a spiking fever, an enraged lover with a gun. For the time being, no one needed saving. Yet, for a medic whose job was to save people, that meant there was nothing to do. He shifted his stance, grimacing a little. His dress shoes pinched. All personnel present wore dress uniform today because the president was on the premises to visit ailing soldiers and spread holiday cheer. Of course, only a lucky few actually saw the commander-in-chief when he visited. His rounds were carefully orchestrated by the powers that be, and his entourage of Secret Service agents and the official press corps kept him walled off from ordinary people. So Harris was a bit startled when he saw a large cluster of black suits and military brass exiting the main elevator below the mezzanine. Odd. The usual route for official visits encompassed Ward 57, where so many wounded veterans lay. Today, it seemed the tour would include the in-processing unit, which had recently undergone renovations courtesy of a generous party donor. The visitors flowed along a spotless corridor. Instinctively, Harris stiffened his spine and prepared to snap to, not that anyone would notice whether or not he did. Old habits died hard. He let himself relax a little. From his glassed-in vantage point, he craned his neck for a glimpse of the world leader, but saw only the press and bustle of the entourage, led by the sergeant major of the army. A moment later, a civilian administrator greeted everyone with a wide smile. She looked as gracious and welcoming as a Georgetown hostess. Apparently, her domain was on the itinerary, and she appeared eager to point out its excellence. Harris knew that her name was Darnell Jefferson, and that she had worked here for a quarter of a century. She was fond of telling that to anyone who would listen. Looking at her, you'd never guess what the regulars here knew, that like many civilian administrators, she tended to spend her entire day being a pain in the ass to all personnel and creating a mountain of paperwork to justify her own existence. Still, she looked cheerful and efficient in a Christmas red dress with the requisite yellow ribbon pinned to her bosom, and the wattage of her smile increased as the impossible occurred. The president separated from the pack and stepped forward for a photo op. Then, even more surprisingly, Mrs. Jefferson took charge of the tour, leading the group along the wide, gleaming corridor. Two cameramen trolled along beside them, the big lenses of their cameras capturing every movement and nuance for the nightly news. The party stopped off at the first intake room, where a wounded soldier had arrived from another facility. Harris knew that the official photos and film would portray the president with the soldier and his family in an intimate circle around the hospital bed. The pictures wouldn't show the vigilant Secret Service or the booms and mics hovering just out of sight. That's showbiz, thought Harris. He didn't understand how anyone could put up with public life. To have everyone's scrutiny on you was a peculiar sort of torture as far as he was concerned. The entourage was on the move again, down the scrubbed hallway toward the Talbot Lounge, one of the newly renovated waiting areas, where a 12-foot noble fir stood, decked in splendor by one of D.C.'s finest florists. They stopped for more photos. Harris could see flashes going off, but he'd lost sight of the president. Elsewhere in the same wing, the recently delivered patient lay in an intake room, flanked on two sides by wire-embedded glass walls. The transport crew had gone to the main desk to fill out their report, and no hospital personnel had arrived yet to in-process the newcomer. The staff members on duty were probably just like Harris, slacking off as they tried to get a look at the president. The patient lay alone, no family member or friend standing by to comfort him in this strange new world. Some people just didn't have anybody. Harris himself might be a prime example of that, if not for Schroeder. He and Sam Schroeder had been best friends for years, since meeting in a battle zone in Konar Province, Afghanistan. Sam and his family made up all that was important to Harris, and he told himself it was enough. He took the stairs down to the main level, hoping to get a look at the president's face. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the fact that he'd spent a decade serving this country and another 4 years at the hospital.